Hey guys, how's it going? Back at it was the next part of What If Naruto Became Lumine's Guide. Don't have much to say this time. Thanks to everyone who tuned in for the first episode and subscribed, or left a like and or comment. You guys rock. Also, before we start, forgive the gameplay and the edits. Not only am I bad at the game, my internet connection has been horrendous lately, and the game is cutting out on me every 10 to 20 minutes. It's just what it is right now, whatever. Now, let's get to the second part of the Storm of Teyvat. The ocean swelled, splashed on the side of the boat, rocking it as it came to shore. The cliffs coming into Mondstadt made docking unique. There was no true ports, and the knights had to protect the roads into the city with frequent disruptions and interruptions. A unique set of eyes with black irises and strange X-crossed pupils gazed upon the shore as they approached. In all of her life, she had only known the seas and lush greenery of Fontaine, or the icy cold barren tundra of Snezhnaya, or their mechanized cities. This was a land she had always wanted to travel to for some time. She simply hadn't had the opportunity with her duties to the House of the Hearth or the Fatui. All of the ways to finally have a chance to visit this region, of course, it would involve him. Arlecchino refrained from rolling her eyes. That man was, in many ways, her polar opposite. Yet he had a certain way about him that drew people in. It was a gift he had. Powerful as he may be, his abilities to change the world with it, along with his tongue, were his true gift. A gift that could perhaps change the world for the better, or destroy it. Oh, wow, it must be difficult to import and export major shipments by sea. Arlecchino's attention shifted to a young, sullen boy on the deck of the boat, marveling at the scenery. A faint smile graced her lips before she immediately hit it. Indeed, trade and travel into Mondstadt is a challenge with such natural formations. It's a natural barrier formed eons ago by their Archon as they shaped Mondstadt to their will. But for that downside, the nation is very well fortified from outside attacks. It's a nation that can afford to send large forces on expeditions because of how well it's defended it is. Arlecchino used the moment for a lesson. Oh, is that what they were doing when we passed by them in Leeway Port? Menace asked after a thoughtful pause. I would assume they just left on an expedition, yes, Arlecchino mused, pondering precisely what they were doing when they heading in if they needed a ship. The fact that at the port she had seen the Grand Master gave her a few ideas on how much importance was put on this expedition, but she would learn more when she arrived in the city proper. It was pretty strange to see him leeway. And as their boat settled into the bay, Arlecchino strolled forward, prepared to dock on the beach. Come, Menace. We mustn't keep everyone waiting. Yes, father, Menace nodded, reaching down and grasping a mechanical penguin he had built on the trip before he followed in her footsteps. Arlecchino recognized his disappointed tone and his wandering eye to the ocean. She knew what he wanted. Once more, a faint smile graced her lips, hidden by the shadows of her bangs. We have business to attend to first. You will have time for exploration later, Arlecchino stated, her gaze focused on the road beyond the beach. In fact, I believe he may have prepared something for you. This last week had been a trial. Lumine had been the least of his concerns. She had been learning the language of Teyvat quite well despite the lack of a translator. She seemed accustomed to it, and given that she traveled from beyond the stars, she had likely done this many times before. One of his problems had been with Eula over the past week. She was agitated knowing that one of her rivals was stepping onto her turf. It had put her in quite a foul mood. She hadn't even tried to take out her vengeance against him in any way. She was genuinely upset with him when she was that so much so that she was denying her own desires. Naruto had a lot of work to do in appeasing her. And then there was this. If there was one thing he couldn't stand, it was when someone bothered his sisters. Jean had taken him in when Eula first brought him to Mondstadt, helped assist him however she could. He did not take her kindness for granted, and did what he could for her. And this little nuisance had been bothering Barbara for quite some time since his last visit. Her singing had grown in popularity over the previous year, and she had become idolized, even had a fan club with a member who went too far in his idolization of her. Enough so that Jean had called a stop to it. And oh, was he willing to assist in relaying that information. Please let me go. I didn't do anything, the blonde man begged as Naruto's shadow loomed in the room. Oh, didn't you, Albert? Naruto menacingly growled as he sat up on the windowsill, staring daggers at the man before returning to sharpening his kunai. I think you know exactly what you did. But, Albert stuttered as fear consumed him. His body trembled as Naruto stood up and menacingly approached. Are you gonna kill me? Please. I don't know. Are you gonna keep stalking her? Naruto snarled as he knelt to look Albert dead in his eyes, slightly drawing his kunai against the cloth of his shirt. I promise I won't. Please just let me go, Albert cried as a foul smell filled the air, and the crotch of his pants began to dampen. Naruto scoffed. With a quick cut to the wire, Albert collapsed onto the floor. This man was spineless. He could track and follow a young girl, but the moment someone with a modicum of power was willing to use it against him. He's yours, Naruto scowled and turned his back on Albert as a chill filled the air. What? Albert shook as another shadowy presence in his home revealed themselves as Naruto stepped out of the room and exited the scene, stalking dangerously towards him and out of the shadows. A woman clothed in the attire of the church approached, kneeling down and with icy cold daggers in her gaze, stared into Albert's eyes. Good, for if I hear you have been anywhere near her again, you'll wish to be lost in Dragonspire and never found again. You two did what? Naruto's ears rang as Jean's voice resonated in his ears. He wanted to wince seeing her piercing stare as she sat behind the Grandmaster's desk, but he simply cleaned out his ears with a finger while shaking his head. We didn't do much to harm him, just like you asked. Just scared him. We simply ensured he wouldn't creep on Barbara again, Rosaria darkly sneered. She felt they hadn't done enough to deter the man and were too lenient on Barbara's stalker. She would have resorted to far more drastic measures. For the love of Barbados, Jean exclaimed before weakly exhaling and throwing a sour glare at the two. I only wanted you to teach a lesson, not scare him half to death. Under no circumstances are you to follow through on that threat. Understand? And he'll never do it again, trust me. Besides, you asked us for a reason. The knights can't really do the sort of things we can. Naruto nervously chuckled as Jean gave him a cold stare. If he knows what's good for him, he'll stay away from her. If not, Rosaria darkly muttered. Her mutterings earned her a glare from Jean. Get out of here before I hold both of you for the night. I have other matters that acquire my attention. Jean harshly glowered at them before ordering them to leave her office. We'll leave you be, Naruto continued to chuckle nervously, giving the acting Grandmaster her space before stepping out of the office. And the moment the door closed, Rosario smirked. She'd lose her mind if we informed him about the rest. Yeah, I'd rather not. I enjoy being welcomed in Mondstadt. Naruto grimaced and ruffled his hair. As if she would. You're like a brother to her, Rosaria scoffed, rolling her eyes before she strolled towards the entrance. Now, if you would excuse me, I have business to attend to. You heading out to Dragonspire? Thought you would stick around for the day. Naruto raised his brow. Apologize to Eula for me. I still have a few things to take care of. Rosaria sighed, waving before she exited the headquarters. Naruto was left in the hallway with a frown. With a shake of his head, he turned to the library, grumbling under his breath as he stepped in. Sure, leaving me was a difficult task. Where's Lumine? Scanning the library several times, Naruto scowled. The library was almost empty, a strange sight. Lisa and a few other attendants were typically found here. The only soul left was Fischl, reading a particular book she was obsessed with, as Oz perched on her table next to her. Yo, is it only you two here? Where's Lisa? Naruto waved and approached them. Yes. Fischl fumbled her book, startled at Naruto's presence, before she regained her composure and boisterously announced. Mistress Lisa came to me and requested my assistance. I, Fischl von Lufaschelos Nefertadort, came to her aid to look after this haven of legends and learning. Translation: Mein Fräulein was reveling in her reading when Lady Lisa stated she could use some help looking after the library. Well, she checked in on a few overdue books, Oz added, causing Fischl to glower. Oz? Fischl lamented. I should have expected that, Naruto mused, nodding his head before frowning as he scanned the library again. Did she happen to take Lumine with her? Oh, do you mean the girl from beyond the stars? Fischl pursed her lips, confused about who Naruto was talking about. Knight Amber stopped by and she went with her. How do you... Never mind, Naruto quickly snapped, flustered at how Fischl had discovered that before frowning. Fischl, despite her peculiarities and her odd personality, was quite perceptive and able to decipher things as context clues. There was a reason she was an investigator for the Adventurers Guild. Since Amber's wisdom, I assume they went to Good Hunter, Naruto sighed and crossed his arms. Thanks for the information. Oh, and the person I hired you and Bennett to help guide should be arriving any time today. Really? Oz, could you find Sir Bennett and inform him of the news? Fischl responded with genuine excitement, turning to her partner. Of course, mein Fräulein. Oz bowed and with a flap of his wings, took off to find the unfortunate boy. Well, I'll be on my way to find them. Take care, Naruto could only shake his head as he waved to Fischl. He hoped hiring the kids to be Fremine's tour guide was the right direction. They were both friendly enough, if strange in their unique ways. But knowing how Bennett's horrid luck went, Big brother! A high-pitched voice of a child reached Naruto's ears as he exited the library, and a small red and white blob rushed towards Naruto, leaping and glomping him with the tightest embrace. Morning, Klee. Finally out of timeout, are you? Did you learn your lesson? Naruto laughed, adjusting to Klee's hug before setting her down. Yes, but I don't want Jean to be upset again. I can't play like that. Klee gave a small but sad smile while pouting. Well, setting a forest on fire with your bombs is an awful thing to do, even if it was by accident. You have to be careful with your equipment, you know that. Naruto sternly frowned, shaking his head at the child before smiling as she pouted further. I know. Klee lightly tapped the floor with her feet sheepishly. But you've already served your punishment. All is forgiven. Naruto broadly beamed at the Crimson Knight. A horrible, wonderful idea coming to him. Say, Klee, you want to play, right? I might have a new friend for you to play with coming in today. The food here was fascinating and so delicious. Every dish she had seen had been so flavorful and unique. Lumine had wanted to learn more about every meal, to learn the recipe and test out her culinary abilities to make the same dish for herself. She had learned to cook so many gourmet meals over the years. She wanted to add more to her repertoire. The main dish was so good, and the sweet desserts? Was this a pie? It was a delicacy. Eula certainly enjoyed and savored it. Lumine hadn't seen her this pleased before. She seemed so calm and content. "It's good," Lumine used one of the simple phrases she had learned through her studying over this last week. "Glad you liked it. There's more from where that came from," Amber brightly beamed and laughed. Lumine smiled and laughed back. She didn't understand everything Amber had said, but with her body language and the few words she had caught, Lumine had a good idea. Amber was easy to understand. She radiated positive energy, and from what Lumine saw, she was a good friend for Eula. As for Eula, well, she was a difficult one to get a read on. The language barrier hindered communication with her. Her expression always seemed dour or sullen. Rarely did she smile. She always seemed to be muttering something about revenge. Yet at the same time, Lumine had seen her show genuine concern for her friends with her rare smile or concern. Or even when she was speaking about this vengeance, there was a playful hint to her words, even if she didn't understand the majority of what she said. Lumine felt a cold shiver down the spine as she heard Eula speak. Her voice was as cold and venomous as she had ever heard it, and the expression on her face turned to disdain as she looked out past the table they sat at. Lumine frowned. She had spent roughly a week around Eula, and not once had she heard her this scornful. And for it to be aimed at this new white-haired woman in a white suit with silver and red accents and design stepped towards them left her confused. What had this woman done to earn such contempt? "Ah, I wondered when we would finally meet. It is a pleasure." The woman spoke in such a sultry tone that it caused Lumine to shiver. This woman oozed a particular charisma. From her voice to her appearance, she was... Lumine's eyes shimmered as her gaze fell upon her eyes. Eyes she recognized. Was she from the Crimson Moon? "Are you Conrian?" Lumine interrupted the stare the two held with one another. The woman with black eyes turned her attention to Lumine, her gaze sharpening for a moment before she brought her hand to her chin. "Princess? Please forgive my rudeness. I did not recognize you. I saw my husband's spouse and decided to converse with her." It's okay?" Lumine grimaced. She didn't like being called that. They hadn't earned such a title nor warranted it. It seemed this woman in white, silver, and black recognized how uncomfortable the name made her. She gave a respectful bow before frowning. "It makes perfect sense now why my husband made the deal he did with La Sonora. I hadn't expected this moment to arrive so soon. We have much work to do." The moment Naruto heard Amber and Eula had taken Lumine to lunch, Naruto's temples started to throb. He knew Arlecchino would arrive in town any moment. Naruto wanted a chance to head off any possible scuffle Eula might start. There wasn't that much of a worry about Arlecchino. She was strangely one of the more accepting of him having multiple spouses. He wasn't sure why, but given her history and that she preferred to be called father, there was a possibility another reason why. The pain in Naruto's temples increased dramatically as he stepped into the city center. and saw a scene playing out at Good Hunter. Arlecchino, with Fermine slightly behind, standing before a table of Amber, Eula, and Lumine. And as expected, Eula was smoldering at the sight of Arlecchino. Didn't expect to see you here so soon. Apologies for not meeting you at the gate, Naruto repressed the urge to grimace as he approached. Mainly from the seething gaze Eula shot at him. Naruto understood her plight. Out of his partners, she was the most jealous, and had always struggled with the fact that he saw others. She had only accepted that reality after the last incident, last year with the Fatui, and her family and his intervention that spared her father from taking severe punishment for his involvement. That didn't mean she liked it, but she was willing to accept it. Except for Arlecchino. It's quite alright. I wanted some time to take in the sights myself. Arlecchino gave a sultry smile as her attention shifted to Naruto. Then, with what seemed like a purposefully exaggerated sway of her hips, she approached Naruto before stroking his cheek with the back of her hand. However, you never told me how attractive your little knight is. I must admit, I'm quite jealous. Could you not? Naruto internally frowned, noticing Eula's jostling in her seat with a mixture of raw contempt and a hint of confusion. He just wanted to avoid conflict between them. That was already going to be a challenge, and Arlecchino wasn't helping matters. We'll see. Arlecchino gave a brief but sly smirk before her amusement settled, and a businesslike demeanor and frown replaced it. You're playing a dangerous game getting involved with her. As powerful as you are, you know the forces that lie beyond this world. I already took that risk a while back with you, did I not? Naruto raised his brow before he flashed a faint but confident smile. Arlecchino bristled, glowering for a moment. Then with a glance back towards Lumine, her gaze sharpened back onto him. You know there's a difference. But I know it's foolish to attempt to have you reconsider getting involved. I am quite stubborn, Naruto tried to joke, only to receive a foul glare. Foolishly so. Arlecchino scowled, brushing past Naruto. We shall begin in the morning. We have little time to spare before the heavenly principles take notice. And if they intervene, we may lose our chance to change the world for the better. This hotel was quite something. She couldn't help but marvel at it. It was fairly different from the Hotel Buffet d'Etat. The Fatui operations ran out of the Grand Goff Hotel. A necessary sacrifice, as Mondstadt was the rare region where the Fatui didn't have a foothold within the city. They didn't own this hotel, they were renters, have paid for an extended stay with a generous donation from their wealth. So it was natural to manage things differently. Still, it was a change for Arlecchino. She was accustomed to more secure locations for discussing business. Her first order of business this morning would be meet with La Sonora. Watch the confident woman squirm in her presence as her operations were scrutinized. For a lady who had lived as long as she had, it had to be agonizing to be lower on the chain than Arlecchino. Alas, as much as Arlecchino would revel in her torment, she had other matters to attend to and would need this meeting to come to an end swiftly. She would need to focus most of her energies on assisting the princess in mastering the common tongue of Teyvat. Arlecchino was running slower than she typically would have been back in Fontaine. Her routine was thrown off ever so slightly, especially when her husband was around. She subconsciously rubbed her blackened fingers, the gold band on her left ring finger, the symbol of their commitment to one another, his willingness to do whatever was necessary to protect those he cared for, and hers to protect what was precious to her. It was a peculiar experience not to lie with him when he was present. Alas, This was a sacrifice she was willing to make when they swore their oaths to one another. His burden was not a weight she envied, only one Arlecchino understood. The sheer will he had to take on the burden of so many other people and put it on his shoulders. "Father?" Arlecchino was brought out of her musings. "What do you need? Do you not have an expedition to be on?" Arlecchino's attention shifted to Fermine as he met her in the entrance hall. "I was about to head out, Fermine stammered bashfully. "Do not worry about any slip-ups. I entrusted you with this test because I have faith in your abilities." Arlecchino recognized Fermine's hesitancy. Gazing down upon the young boy was confident. "I expect a full report every night. Any information about the depths here could reveal crucial information about our waters and the impending flood. Do you understand?" "Yes, father." Fermine meekly smiled at Arlecchino's boast of confidence in him. "Good. Carry on." Arlecchino hid her smile behind her hand as Fermine moved to leave. "Oh, one thing before you do. Do be careful and watch out for anything unusual. My husband seems to have hired quite the adventurous team to assist you in your task. You may have a calamitous journey in front of you." Fermine stopped and gave a curiously worried glance back at Arlecchino, unable to see her in amusement. However, this glance back caused Arlecchino to frown, watching as Fermine turned to leave the hotel. Fermine was one of the few children who were there when her mother was the head of the house. This weariness was not unfounded. He had seen the horrors of how the house was used to run. Any and all changes from those that survived that order were scrutinized, even if they were for the best. "Lady Harbinger," Arlecchino was brought out of her musings by a mirror maiden, who approached and respectfully bowed before motioning to follow. "Lady Sonora is ready. Right this way." Arlecchino didn't deign to respond. Instead, she dutifully followed, having an idea what her fellow Harbinger wished to discuss. A tactical meeting to gather information on what the Storm was up to, and who this new lady was who was with him. It wouldn't take long for them to realize precisely who Lumine was. The better question was, how would her peers react to someone who possessed the power to change the world, now had arrived on Teyvat? Today was just another routine scouting mission for Eula. There was nothing atypical to report. No traces of the abyss beyond the usual mages and the common hilichurl encampments, those of which were a little too close to the road for comfort. That could cause Jean some concern, given what had happened 2 years ago. Eula exhaled. On days such as these, she would have delegated a mission such as this to Micah or another of her subordinates. Unfortunately, with half of her unit taken on Varko's expedition to the north, there was simply no one to delegate to. They were spread too thin. She couldn't complain, though. Every division was facing this challenge. It also gave her time to mull over her thoughts. Eula needed some time to think things over. That woman's presence bothered her. From the way she spoke to the way she touched Naruto, everything made her stomach boil. Eula knew she had nothing to do with the Fatui who had orchestrated the failed attempt to build a Lawrence resistance to take back Mondstadt. However, it didn't change the fact that the woman was a harbinger, and one connected to quite a few shady deals. The knave was far from innocent, and it baffled her why Naruto had chosen to marry her years ago. It upset her greatly then, and it still bothered her now. Eula didn't care that he was permitted to see others. It was the principle of the matter. She didn't want to share him, even if she knew she couldn't fill that void he felt within. To comfort that sense of loss and longing where his memories should have been. Eula did so because it kept him safe wherever he went. That someone was there to comfort him no matter the region. She was too entrenched in Mondstadt and the Knights to leave. Though, given the current state of her clan, she sometimes wished she could. Yoo-hoo! Amber's voice caught Eula's attention, drawing her attention to the north. The outrider strode from the northern forest of Wolvendom, brightly smiling and waving. How's your patrol going? Nothing out the ordinary. Few villager camps have been built a little too close to the roads. Had to clear them out. Eula shook her head, stopping and waiting for Amber to join her. Yeah, same. They've been getting rather brazen again as of late. Amber frowned as she reached Eula. You think they're trying another large-scale attack again? Like when Naruto, Diluc, and Jean healed the East Wind? It's something to keep an eye on. I don't doubt it, so we should report it. Eula frowned upon hearing Amber's similar report. I don't imagine Jean would be too thrilled upon hearing that so soon after Grandmaster Varka left and took an expedition team with him. Amber nervously laughed. Eula glowered at Jean's mention. Their families had a history with one another, and while she had long since put that past behind her, she had to keep up appearances. Maybe she could storm her office again for a long tea session. They both likely could use a little chat and time to unwind and relax. No, I can't imagine so. I'll inform her. Oh, I'll inform her. Eula smirked, the glint in her eyes causing Amber to shiver. Do you have to say it like that? Amber frowned. Oh, does my way of speech bother you? Shall I place you on my list? Eula scowled, looking down at her friend menacingly. Ah, you know what I meant, Amber glowered back at her. Good, for I'll have you know, Eula began before an ear-splitting, earth-shaking roar rumbled and shook them both. What was that? Sounds like it came from the ravine. Amber rushed out ahead, scouting the direction Eula had come from. There was a blockage there earlier. I had to use an alternate path. I hadn't had a chance to report it yet, so I doubt they have sent someone to deal with it. Eula frowned, catching up with Amber and leading into the ravine. Even if they did, who would have Jean sent that would have gone that overboard? Amber responded, her words dying on her tongue as a simple image came to her mind. Eula shared the same look of terror as they arrived at a blast center, where several smashed boulders had been removed. And at the center was a young knight in red, proudly boasting as she strutted ahead of the two adventurers and the boy who came with her. Yay! We can move on forward! Klee confidently stepped forward, standing in the middle of the smoldering blast zone. Wow, that was certainly more than enough to take care of that roadblock. I'm impressed. Bennett whistled while rubbing a sore spot on his head. Here, let me see that, Fischl frowned, having Bennett squat so she could look over his bump. Shall I fetch Lady Barbara to tend to him? Oz quipped, shaking his head at the poor boy's misfortune. It's not that bad, is it? Bennett tried to act tough before expressing a hint of concern. As long as you didn't lose consciousness? No. Eula stayed in much to the horror of Klee as she and Amber stepped in front of the young girl. Each gave her a stern or reproachful stare. Captain Lawrence! Am I in trouble? Klee panicked before pouting. Eula steeled her gaze, not allowing Klee's cuteness to affect her. Amber would have likely caved to protect her from Jean's wrath. She, however, glancing at the ravine, Eula pursed her lips, despite the blast clearly having too much powder. The only thing of note was Bennett being conked by debris, given his horrid luck. That was the best case scenario. He was lucky he wasn't crushed, or they all received some grievous wounds. Just a little. You didn't need to use that much powder. You could have caused another incident like the fire you set in Wolfendom. Eula frowned, expressing her disappointment to Klee. But as the girl's pout began to strengthen and even affect her, she shook her head. And you're not nearly as in trouble as he is. Oh, he knows better. Mark my words. I'll give him a good thrashing for this. Achoo! Naruto sneezed. His sneeze reverberated and echoed throughout the chamber of the domain he had stepped into. He scowled as the sound of many upset Hilichurl and Abyss mages followed, ordering them to find the origin of the sneeze. Great. There goes our cover. Guess we're going to have to do this the hard way, Diluc rolled his eyes, stepping out in the open as a Hilichurl swarmed. And in a single long-arced swing around him, he devastated the Hilichurls charging in. I mean, we're here to kidnap and get information from a mage. Our job hasn't changed, Naruto scowled, pinpointing several throws of his kunais to snipe the archers, aiming at his friend. I suppose not, Diluc shrugged, giving a sharp glance back at Naruto before rushing the Metaturl and cutting through his shield with his fiery blade. But seriously, how did you expect Eula to react for bringing her, of all people, to Mondstadt? No matter the reason. You know how Eula is. Yeah, I know, Naruto grunted, flickering past the Metaturl, his kunai dicing through its neck as the next wave approached in the distance. I know. Didn't mean to upset her. It's just... Save it for her, not me. Diluc stood next to Naruto, scoffing before sliding his stance and preparing for a fight. I'm not sure if I can call it lucky that she fell for you, but as someone who has known her for a long time, take it from me. Don't take that for granted. For someone as scornful as Eula can be, you are lucky. Now get your head in the game, we got a job to do. It was such an unusual experience to have someone who could translate and assist Lumine in learning the native tongue of this world. Typically, she learned alongside her brother. Lumine couldn't help but grimace and suddenly gaze off into the distance. 500 years. It had been that long since she had seen her brother. Aether had been traveling Teyvat all this time without her, likely trying to find a way to release her from her prison. He could legitimately be anywhere, and finding him would be a trial. But she knew they would reunite. Lumine did not doubt that. It was only a matter of time before their paths crossed once more. Until then, she didn't mind learning more about this world. It was the reason they traveled throughout the stars, to record the cultures and histories of every world they came across. And the culture and history of this world had dramatically changed over the time she was away. The people she had met when Lumine and Aether originally arrived had been scattered across the globe, their home destroyed. Yet, after talking to Arlecchino, it felt like there was something more to the story. Lumine wanted to know more about what had happened in the current culture. However, her primary focus was on learning this tongue while getting to know the people. So, this was a festival? Lumine asked as she strolled through the cities, noticing the flow of people had lightened over the past few days. Yes, Wineless Fest is a celebration of the return of the Animal Archon at the end of their harvest season. It's an event I hope to attend one day and partake in. Mondstadt is known for its wine, and I would love to experience a fresh taste. Arlecchino responded in Conrian, browsing the souvenir shop's trinkets. Lumine nodded, musing over what she had already learned while she spent time in Conria. She recalled learning how other nations were ruled by deities known as the Archons. So a festival celebrating one's return made sense, especially one so revered that they had a church and massive statue in the center of the town dedicated to them. What had caught her curiosity was this objects Arlecchino was browsing in. She would be interested in. Maybe the young man she came would like some of these things? However, some of the plushes and dolls were very girly. They're for the children back home, Arlecchino stated, having observed Lumine's queer gaze. I happen to be a matron for the orphanage in Fontaine, run by the Fatui amongst many of my other roles. While I'm away in another region, I would like to give them a memory of this place to hold on to in case they may visit it one day. Lumine raised her head, surprise evident. She did not think this woman, a young woman such as herself, would be in charge of an orphanage. She seemed oddly cold for the role. Yet here she was, purchasing items she thought her children would like. Maybe she was warmer than she let on? But that is enough for now. Come, Arlecchino motioned as she turned her focus to the gate. It's time I showed you what you will need to know if you plan on traveling through the world. Certain dangers lurk that did not exist all those years ago. Oh. Did you see what was in my heart? These words brought Naruto confusion. He stood within a battlefield of a ruined bridge standing in ankle-deep water. He was surrounded by several shadowy figures whose faces he couldn't make out. Their silhouettes were too hazy to make out, but they felt familiar. However, one figure was precise, the only person's image he could clearly see in any of his memories. And his onyx eyes flickered red as Naruto continued. "'Cause if you did, you know what will happen if we fight again." "Shut up!" Sasuke snarled, his eyes briefly flickering to the Sharingan before being held back by the shadow next to him. "No, I don't think I will," Naruto continued, the words flowing from his mouth on instinct. "If you attack the village, it's inevitable if we fight again. And you both know what will happen. So instead, keep that hatred festering. And hit me with everything you got. I can bear that weight. It's my job to take it." Before Naruto could contemplate the swell of emotions he was feeling, Sasuke answered the very question that was ruminating in Naruto's head. "What the fuck is wrong with you? Why do you care about me so much?" And as the memories faded to darkness, Naruto couldn't help but feel the same confusion Sasuke did. Why did he care so much? Naruto exhaled, reaching down into the sink and splashing the cold water from the fountain on his face. Glancing at his reflection through the mirror, he frowned. The emotions those words carried, how he felt. Naruto understood. There was a reason why he cared so damn much about Sasuke. A reason why he was so willing to go to such lengths to save him. He simply lacked any positive memories of him. All he could recall was the memories of what he had done. And he lacked any positive memories of his home. All he could recall were the harsh stares or indifference. Or a teacher trying to kill him. "You're rarely awake up this early." "What's wrong?" Eula's voice resonated as she leaned in the doorway. Turning to face Eula, hesitating for a moment, Naruto's gaze took in her gorgeous frame in the pale moonlight. The cool air nipped and accentuated some of her features underneath the mesh shirt she wore, which was a tad large on her, for it was a shirt Naruto was quite sure was his. and those tight, form-fitting black shorts she wore caused some natural problems for him. Yet all of that was washed away upon seeing the look of genuine concern on Eula's features. Eula was not someone who openly expressed her true feelings. She hid them away under her persona, or the idea of extracting her vengeance upon those able to withstand it. The only place she could openly express her true feelings was when she was alone. It was something she had only been willing to do around him since his last visit. It was not something Naruto could take lightly. I recalled more memories of him, Naruto shared, exposing the same vulnerability Eula was willing to share with him. Oh, Eula's expression softened. Stepping into the washroom, she gently placed her hand and rested it on his shoulder. Have you remembered anything else yet? Or is it still about him? Always has been. It's like my whole damn life revolved around him. Can't even make out the images of anyone else in my memories besides those scornful looks, even when others are present. Naruto grunted and rubbed his temple. Eula grimaced, biting her lips as she let his words weigh in on her for a moment before speaking. Have you seen him lately? Has he... Naruto could sense that the turmoil within her, and he had to guess why. Weighing one's desires against another's needs was always a difficult choice. As much as Eula desired him, she wanted what was best for him. And he wanted the same for her. He wanted the same for everyone. He wanted everyone to have that place of rest. He's still searching. Naruto nodded, his gaze falling to the moonlight through the window beyond the door. Kurama visited me a few months back when I was in Fontaine. Wanted to check in on me and practice a few countermeasures for those who dwell in the abyss. Countermeasures? Eula couldn't contain her frown, and Naruto immediately knew why. Eula hadn't seen what he or Kurama had in the recesses of the abyss. She didn't realize the threat that lay within. She may have thought of him as the strongest person she knew of, but Naruto knew he wasn't, and he wasn't willing to take a chance that those threats could endanger his friends. He needed to be ready, even if it meant everything. Naruto, I understand the perils of the abyss presents to all. It takes beings as powerful as the Archons to preserve the tentative peace we have. Eula frowned before she displayed her concern, moving her hand and gently placing it on his chest. All I ask is that you don't do anything too reckless. I don't want... You know I can't, Naruto responded with sincerity and a hint of regret, reaching out and gently embracing her. If anyone were to harm you, harm any of you, threaten my friends, I would do whatever it takes to protect all of you. Eula grimaced in his embrace. She hung her head and bit her lip. She knew what his answer would be, and Eula had long accepted that consequence. She just wished she could have erased his burden more. However, you're a jerk. Eula looked up and weakly glared at Naruto. Really? Do we have to say any of us in such a tender moment? Mark my words. Fair enough, my bad, Naruto winced. At any moment, he expected Eula to take her full vengeance upon him. And when she did... Oh, you'll get what's coming to you soon enough. But not yet. Not until I'm ready. I'm still mad at you. Eula glowered before she huffed, turning her head from him. Naruto restrained in the urge to recoil. He knew what she meant. Eula was waiting for the right moment. And when that moment came, she was gonna unleash all her pent-up frustration on him. He only hoped his hips would survive. And that is the end of the second part. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, if you wouldn't mind, take a second to like, comment, and subscribe. It would be very much appreciated. And if you did, perhaps you would like these videos on your screen. Until next time, my friends, take care. Peace.